Hello and welcome to the Gold, Goats, and Guns podcast for today, August 19th, 2020. My name is Tom Luongo and we have a lot to talk about. This is episode 47 and Trump derangement syndrome has gone plaid. His pardoning of Susan B. Anthony may be the lowest cost negative ad in the history of presidential politics. I'll give you my thoughts on that in a minute, but first I want to remind you that you can follow my work over at my blog at tomluongo.me. You can follow me on Twitter at TFL1728. Live streams, they happen every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and DLive. Just search for me on both platforms. You'll find me. Warning, I am a bad boy. I have a potty mouth and I use those words in sentences. Now, you can also support the podcast by downloading and installing the Brave browser. Brave protects your online privacy by blocking all those pesky data snoopers, ads, tracking cookies, which feed the growing surveillance state. But moreover, you earn crypto tokens called BAT for opting into Brave's ad network and use them to tip your favorite content creators like me, who are verified publishers on the network. BAT's price has been going up beautifully in this latest move by Bitcoin and the crypto market in general. It's very, very gratifying to see. You can use my referral code in the show notes, which I'll have linked there, to sign up. Be it your favorite website, YouTube, Twitch, or SoundCloud channel, click the Brave logo icon to the right of the search bar when you install Brave to tip your earnings and directly support the content you love through those earnings. They're like YouTube super chats, but without Google taking a 30% pay cut and you having to put money out up first. Lastly, you can join the more than 450 people who support me directly on Patreon at patreon.com/goldgoatsandguns, where you can sign up for the twice weekly market reports covering the current events and technical states of important markets. And you can also sign up for the Gold, Goats, and Guns monthly newsletter, which ties up all the cultural, geopolitical, and economic shifts into a coherent portfolio strategy designed to help you make sense of a world going mad. Let's get to it. So Trump really did hit a home run with his pardon of Susan B. Anthony the other day. And at first I was like, dude, really? Because it made no sense to me whatsoever. And I just and I tweeted out, I said, this just feels like Javanka cuckoldry at this point. But it took me a little while, and then I began to see the brilliance of it, because all of a sudden, these people were reacting to his pardoning of Susan B. Anthony like it was the most egregious crime in the history of man. And I'll explain why in just a second, because it's very obvious that it was a calculated example of how Trump so much better understands his opponents than they even understand themselves. Remember the dynamic. Everything Trump does is bad, right? So if everything Trump does is bad and they are deep in the throes of Trump derangement syndrome, then they reflexively take the anti-Trump position. So if Trump says 2 + 2 = 4, they go, well, no, really, sometimes it actually equals 5. Or, isn't the sky lovely today? It's a blue, brilliant deep blue today, and it's a lovely day outside. No, I see a cloud over there. No, it's purple over there. No, it's orange over there. I mean, this is what they do. They are incapable of ignoring anything he says, and they're incapable of giving him credit for doing anything right. And that makes him, 1, incredibly predictable, 2, unbelievably pedantic, and 3, just by this point after 4 years, tiresome. The average person looks at this stuff and goes, what are you talking about? The guy's not so bad. What's wrong with you? And now it's beginning to turn back on them. Scott Adams pointed out that they have to do this because they have no policies. They have to respond to him because they have nothing else to do, because they can't run on any policy. I mean, I know that they're going to try and position Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the better law and order couple than Trump, because, the riots are all his fault. They've got a strong track record of being tough on crime, but they're the ones who help militarize the police, and they're the ones who help politicize the Attorney General office and all of this stuff. So that's not really going to fly. Trump's got them 18 ways from Sunday on that front. So it's a bad pivot, and it just shows them that they have literally zero policies. They're going to try and shift policies on other fronts later in the campaign, but for right now, they have nothing. And then did you see that insanity that they ran with Stephen Stills, and they played the Buffalo Springfield tune against the backdrop of a miscolored U.S. flag and a black soy boy metrosexual tranny guy singing it? A red and green American flag. Like, they're not even trying to hide anymore that they're watermelons, green on the outside and red on the inside, with red stars for the flag. And it boggles the mind that they think that this kind of pandering and this kind of pushing the image system this far is going to work for them. It's not. It's going to backfire on them badly. But let's get back to Susan B. Anthony, because I see about 8 different ways that this is a win for Trump. Once I had a chance to kind of really take it in, remember the dynamic of everything Trump does is bad, therefore we have to be the anti-Trump. Once you start looking at it from that perspective, it's really hard not to see how this is a win, because their best strategy was to ignore him completely. And they are incapable of doing this. They have to take control of the Overton window from him. And every time he does this, they fall for it over and over again. One of my patrons commented to me this morning after my market report, and he said, watching Trump toy with his enemies is kind of like Lucy waving a football in front of Charlie Brown. I'm like, that just made me smile. So I see about 8 different ways that this is a win for Trump. So first, he sets the hook the day before during the convention and sets them in motion trying to figure out, well, who is he going to pardon tomorrow? If it's not going to be Snowden, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Assange? Is it going to be Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn? He so told him it's not going to be Flynn and it's not going to be Snowden. Well, just him taking them off their game and forcing conference calls all around the country and having them spend hours trying to figure out what in the hell is he going to do tomorrow. That's win number 1. Okay, and that type of win is going to propagate itself throughout the entire convention, because now he set the hook. Then he sets his base in motion to get hashtag Assange trending on Twitter the morning after the first day of the convention, where the Democrats already look bad because of Michelle Obama or Michael Obama giving her speech, his speech, Shim's speech, whatever you want to call it. Chewbacca gave her speech, and it was terrible. And then there was the Buffalo Springfield thing, which everybody looked at like, are you kidding me? What's wrong with them? And then Julian Assange is trending on Twitter because Trump is going to probably pardon Assange, right? What does that do? That brings Julian Assange's injustice back into the news cycle. It brings Hillary's emails. It brings the Russiagate thing. It brings all of that stuff back into the news cycle. That's win number 2. Remember, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, he talked about pardoning Snowden. Well, he left the door open to pardon Snowden, right? Setting the hook for this week's pardon and getting everybody's hopes up. That's win number 3. Now we bring up intelligence community overreach while Trump continues to lay Easter eggs out there as to how badly these people were conspiring against him and his campaign going back into late 2015. And then he goes out and he announces Susan B. Anthony. He's going to pardon her for, having been arrested for voting when she didn't have the right to vote, which causes everybody to go, what in the holy hell is this about? That's win number 4. The confusion itself is win number 4. His base is disappointed, yells at him for not pardoning Assange, but now Trump gets this massive amount of feedback. Now he gets real data saying, well, if you were to do this, this would be insanely popular. But he'll save that for closer to the election. Think about it. And then there are big articles reminding everybody of how important Assange is to disproving Russiagate. Again, also a dominant narrative. While John Durham's investigation grinds forward, we now have the Klein-Smith admission and plea bargain deal, right? That's win number 5. All of these things tie together. And then the Democrats take the freaking bait. And they respond exactly the way Trump expected them to. They responded by going out of their way to try and cancel Susan B. Anthony. Okay? She's an icon of boomer feminism. She's a near religious figure for the advocates of democracy and the progressive ideal of one person, one vote and all this. It's crazy. She's not a coin, for Christ's sake. And these people now go out of their way to try and figure out how they can cancel Susan B. Anthony. How do they do it? By calling her a racist, just like they always do. Well, she didn't back the vote for black people. She wanted the vote for women first. That's what her thing was. But because she wasn't for the vote for all people, well, she's a bad person. And now she needs to be canceled out of history. Brilliant. And the best part about this is that these people are so tone deaf and so dumb. They are such IYIs. They are such midwits, as Michael Malice calls them, that they think they're winning by doing this. They're so smug and insouciant and so up their own asses that they don't understand how bad they look. That's win number 6. I mean, it's even better that Pelosi goes out there and thinks that, well, because she's speaker and she has the awesome power of the speaker's gavel, that she can limit his pardoning power. I'm sorry, honey, but got news for you. His ability to pardon is in the Constitution. It's part of the executive branch, and you as the legislative branch don't have the ability to stop that. That's Hell, that's win number 6A. So that Trump gets to think about this. Now Trump gets to support history. After BLM and Antifa go on a purge of it, after knocking down statues of Christopher Columbus and George Washington and all this stuff, after doing his July 4th speech at Mount Rushmore, right? All of this stuff. And the Dems have already begun backing away from this, knowing that it's deeply unpopular, that this is not what anybody wants. This is not justice for George Floyd. This has nothing to do with George Floyd. This is now just about the naked grab for power, and they've been exposed in every way, manner, shape, or form as being just pathetic, power-seeking Marxists. I don't even know how else to put it at this point. They're just pathetic, power-mad Marxists. They're just full of bile and envy and hatred and vitriol, and they have now taken themselves to the highest form of venality by going after Susan B. Anthony because Trump did something nice to her. Are you kidding me? How dumb can you people actually be? And they think that any of this matters in the big grand political scheme of things in the first place. Because win number 7 here is that he's now forced them to back away from the erasing of history. And win number 8 is that they're still rattled because he did this over a minor political figure, but an icon of third-wave feminism and the left. And he leaves them rattled and the strategizing pits of the Biden campaign and the DNC wondering what he's going to do next. There's those pictures of Bill Clinton getting a massage from one of Epstein's sex slaves. That dropped right before Bill spoke at the convention. Like, what's he going to drop next? Pictures of Bill having sex with a 15-year-old? Is that what's next? They're freaking out right now. They don't know what to do. They don't know whether to shit or go blind. But they know they don't have a campaign. And that's win number 8. Because just wait, folks. He'll find a reason to pardon Martin Luther King Jr. and then look at the microphone and go, I wonder why the first black president didn't do this. Drops the mic. Because at the end of the day, it's very clear to me that Trump is still completely in control of this election cycle, has preternatural ability to manipulate the Overton window, is still on target. The Dem strategy to create chaos and blame it on him is failing miserably. COVID has peaked. There's no way imaginable to extend this hysteria through the election for no other reason than for the naked grab for power, and everybody is starting to see it. And only the people who are stuck in the echo chamber of social media think that any of this stuff actually matters in the real world. No one wants 2 months of electioneering shenanigans in the courts like we had with Bush v. Gore in 2000. This is not what people in America actually want. And the amount of people truly suffering from Trump derangement syndrome outside of the hard blue wall states is very low. And every day that pile of people is shrinking and the Democrats know it. They know this. Their internal polling have Trump winning. Their best polling has all of the battleground states now at toss-ups, when those polls have all been designed to shape public opinion rather than reflect it. They're in serious trouble on every front. They're now having to back away from politicizing the United States Postal Service. This was a dumb move. They figured they could create controversy around the Postal Service and then blame Trump and say, look, he's a dictator for, removing mailboxes and all this stuff. Stuff that's been going on for years because the Postal Service is losing money. The Postal Service is now losing even more money than they have in previous years because of COVID-19, because of the lockdowns, because they can't actually service the mail properly. Okay? It's a classic example of what happens when you unleash chaos and affect one system. It has cascading effects through all these other systems. These are not people that can think systemically. Their whole reaction to Susan B. Anthony is proof positive that all they are a bunch of reaction engines. Trump acts, they react. That's it. They don't think. They just react. And their entire strategy are pathetic, and people are tired of it. They wanted a mail-in election, but now they realize they can't win because the United States Postal Service can't handle that volume of mail that way in this current environment. And now they're worried that they won't even be able to get all their votes in early enough in order to stop the elections from being certified. I saw an article on Newsmax this morning about that, and they're already shifting their strategy away from it. Because that tells me that their polling is telling them Trump's winning now, and early voting is both their only chance and might not even be that good, because Trump could peak 2 weeks before the election. Then what happens? Everybody starts turning in their ballots early, and early voting actually screws them as opposed to helps them. Go one step further. Pelosi caved on the stimulus fight. Last week I talked about how Trump's executive orders may have won him the election. Well, Pelosi had to cave completely on the stimulus. Now she's down to asking for $2 trillion as opposed to 3.8. She tried 3.4. Then she said, oh, no, we're going to go to 3.8 or 4 trillion or whatever it was. And Trump's like, no. Mitch McConnell's like, no, you get 1.6 and that's it. You're not going to bail out the blue states. They've made their beds. They're going to lie in them. And we're going to find out just how much they actually contribute to the tax base. You realize that those states are losing people left and right. The exodus out of those states is biblical. And it's only going to accelerate from here. So they've alienated the center of the country by attacking our history, by looting our cities, by blowing them up and sending wrench-wielding, black bloc-wearing soy boys into the suburbs and vandalizing people's houses. People are buying guns like you wouldn't believe. You can't find any ammo. Like, who told them this would be a winning strategy? The people who actually benefit from all of the chaos. And those are the people trying to transfer power from the United States to the European Union. You know who they are. So all they have left to win this election is shenanigans, including all the extra legal options like military coup, refusing to certify the elections, sending faithless electors to the Electoral College, all of that stuff. And on that point, since Trump has begun the change forward deployments overseas, pulling troops out of Germany, trying to figure out a way to pull troops out of Iraq, pulling troops out of Afghanistan, yada, 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 all of those things. The Joint Chiefs are coming out against him. Former and retired generals have already come out against him, including his former Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis. These people are all politicians first and everything else second, and they all are deeply wedded to this old Cold War mentality. All the old guard neocons, all the never-Trumpers from 2016, they're all speaking at the DNC convention, for Christ's sake. So expect a false flag on our troops in either Syria, Afghanistan, or even Europe, now that there's unrest in Belarus. Why? They've got to try and gin up a response from Trump and blame him for our troops being killed because, their readiness isn't as strong because he threatened to pull some troops out. You see how they're going to play that out? And honestly, Trump needs to cut that avenue off very quickly. And he also needs to be looking at who he can replace on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, if you want my honest opinion. We'll see. So no matter what happens here, this election is going to be off the charts crazy because the Democrats just proved over Susan B. Anthony that they have no winning strategy. All right, this has been the Gold, Goats, and Guns podcast for today, Wednesday, August 19th, 2020, episode 47. If you like what you heard today, you do the thing, like it, share it, subscribe to it, do whatever you can. Go ahead and install the Brave browser. I'll make sure that there's a link to my referral code in the show notes, and we'll talk next week. You guys enjoy your week. Enjoy what's left of Joe Biden's political career because it should end tomorrow night. Be well. Keep your stick on the ice.